Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever looked at a technical analysis report and just your eyes glazed over? Well, today we're going to take one of those dense reports and crack it open to find the real story inside. Let's get right into it. You open it up and boom, it's just a wall of numbers. Seriously, it can be pretty intimidating, right? You've got a sea of data, all this jargon. It's so easy to just feel lost before you even begin. But here's the thing, buried in all that data, there's a story. It's a story about where this stock has been, what it's up to right now, and maybe even where it's headed. So our job today, we're going to be detectives and decode that story piece by piece. And don't worry, we've got a plan. First, we'll get the basics down with a quick snapshot. Then we'll figure out the trend, check its momentum, look at its recent ups and downs, and then we'll put it all together to see what that final score really means. All right, let's kick things off with the stock's current snapshot. I mean, before you can figure out where you're going, you gotta know where you're standing, right? So, this is ground zero. The report tells us that on the day they ran this analysis, the price for Palantir, that's PLTR, was sitting at 179.14. Just lock that number in your head because everything else we look at is gonna connect back to this. Now, a price by itself is kinda useless, right? It's all about the context. So let's zoom out. Over the last year, this thing has been on a wild ride, dipping as low as $63 and soaring up past 207. So our current price, that 179, it's definitely playing in the big leagues, way closer to its 52-week high than its low. Okay, so we know where it is now, but what's the bigger picture? Where has it been going? That brings us to our next piece of the puzzle, reading the trend. So what even is a trend? Think about it like this. You're driving down a really bumpy road. The trend isn't every little pothole and bump you hit. It's the overall direction the road is taking you. North, south, whatever. And things like moving averages, they're basically the shock absorbers for the data. They smooth out all those daily jolts so we can see that bigger, clearer path. And there are a couple of ways to look at this. You've got your short-term trend, which is like a snapshot of how the market is feeling right now. Then you've got the long-term trend. That's more like its overall personality. You really need to understand both to get the full story. And this is where things get really interesting. Check this out. The current price is actually below its recent 20-day average. That kind of hints at some weakness lately. But, and this is a big but, it's still way, way above its long-term 200-day average. So over the last year, it's been incredibly strong. We've got a bit of a tug of war here. So what's the bottom line on the trend? Well, the big picture is a powerful, long-term uptrend, no doubt about it. But right now, it's hitting some serious turbulence. It's like it's flying into some short-term headwinds that are trying to push it back down.
Okay, so we've got this conflict in the trend. Now let's talk about something different, momentum. This isn't about which way the car is pointed, it's about how hard you're stepping on the gas. Are we talking about an engine that's revving like crazy, or is it just kind of idling?
Yeah, momentum is all about the speed of price changes. And one of the best tools we have for that is the RSI, the Relative Strength Index. The tachometer analogy is perfect. If it gets up over 70, the engine is screaming. It's in the red. We call that overbought, and it might be due to cool down. If it drops below 30, the engine's barely running, it's oversold, and it might be ready to get going again. So where are we at? The report puts the RSI at 46.07, and that is right smack in the middle of the neutral zone. It's not overbought, it's not oversold. So going back to our car, the engine isn't screaming, but it's not about to stall out either. It's just cruising. Okay, so the RSI says things are pretty balanced. But here's a little teaser for you. As we're going to find out later, the RSI isn't telling us the whole story about momentum. There are some other clues in this report that hint at something much, much bigger bubbling just beneath the surface. All right, we've been talking about all these indicators and averages. It's all a bit abstract. Let's get back to reality and just look at the actual price journey. What has it been like to hold this stock for the past couple of months? And wow, it's been a roller coaster. The report shows us that back in early November, this thing shot up to a peak of over $207. Incredible. But then, bam, by the middle of December, it had crashed all the way down to around 177. It tried to mount a comeback, got up to 193 right before Christmas, but it just didn't have the legs. It fell back and settled right where our story starts, at 179. So yeah, the big takeaway here is volatility. It's a stock that just went through a huge drop, and now it's kind of shaking it off, trying to figure out where to go next. Okay, we've got the price, we've got the trend, we've checked the momentum, and we've relived the recent roller coaster ride. It's time. Let's put all these clues together and see what the report's final verdict is. And here it is, the big reveal. The report boils everything down to one number, a technical score of 14.95. Now, you hear a number that low, and your first thought is probably, oof, that's bad, right? It sounds super bearish. But if we just stop there, we'd be missing the real story, the most fascinating part. It's like they say, the most interesting stories are the ones that are full of contradictions. And believe me, this report has a huge one hiding right in plain sight. So get this. The report gives the stock a trend strength score of basically 0. Zilch. That confirms what we saw. It's totally directionless right now. But at the exact same time, its momentum score is over 84. That is incredibly high. Do you see the tension here? It's like a car with a massive engine that's revving like crazy, but it's stuck in neutral.
And that, right there, is the complete story this report is telling us. First, that powerful long-term uptrend, it's hit a wall. It's stalled out for now. Second, the stock is just drifting. It has no clear direction, but it is absolutely packed with energy. It's like a coiled spring. And what that means is that it's probably getting ready for a big move. The only problem is, the report isn't telling us which way it's about to spring. So we're left with this really critical question. When you see a setup like this, a stalled trend, but with tons of coiled up energy, it feels like the market is just holding its breath. And it makes you wonder, what's it going to take? What piece of news, what catalyst is going to be the spark that finally unleashes all that energy and gives it a direction? And that is the real story this report was telling us all along. Thanks for figuring it out with me.